So why is Ukraine hitting Wildberries? Because Ukraine wants Russians to feel this war, not the soldier at the front, the people back home. And Wildberries is one piece of something much bigger, making the war cost more, making it harder to protect, and making it harder for Putin to keep saying everything is under control. I live in Kyiv, let me explain. I know how it sounds. It's a shopping site. People buy clothes there, phones, stuff for the kitchen, so why would anyone send a drone at it? The official logic is that Wildberries isn't really a shop, it's a delivery machine. Warehouses, trucks, sorting centers, a network that move goods across the whole country, and some of what most truck it can end up in the army. For you, it's a product, for them, it's a part. How much of it's actually military? Though I honestly don't know. I've seen people claim it's a serious share, and I've seen people say it almost nothing, and there is no public data I trust either way, so I'm not going to invent a number for you. But I think the question itself is slightly wrong, because Russia is far too big to take apart piece by piece. Nobody has enough drones for that. What you can do is pick the points where hitting one thing breaks several others, and we already watched this work with oil. Nobody tried to burn all of Russia's oil. They hit specific refinery, and a few months later you had full limits and uses in half the regions. Warehouses work on truly the same much. You destroy a building and the trouble show up something else in the suppliers, in the small businesses that live off that network, in the banks that lend the money. The part I find more interesting isn't logics at all. For years now, the Russian state has been selling people a very simple picture. Russia is at war, the soldiers are at the front, the Ukrainian drone are far away, and meanwhile in Moscow or Kazan or Vladivostok, you go to work, you order things online, you take our holidays. The war exists, but it's happening somewhere else. That's not a side effect of the propaganda, that's a whole thing, because a war is very easy to support as long as it never touches you. So when a drone comes down on a delivery hub near your city, that's picture correct a little. Somebody wakes up, open their phone and see that it's here now, not Kursk, not the front, here. Now I want to be careful, because I don't think this worked the way a lot of people in Ukraine imagine. Nobody is going out to protest. Some Russians won't care, some will blame us, some will blame the West, and most will just go to work the next morning. And the honest answer about how they actually react is that our data on that is very thin. What I don't think is real, smaller than that. Propaganda doesn't only run on people believing things, it runs on people not asking. And when something is burning 20 kilometers from your house, the questions arrive on their own. Why didn't air defense see it? Why is fuel expensive again? Why is this war suddenly next door? Not for everyone, but apparently that's already enough to be a problem. Then there is the boring part, which is the money and air defense. Every system Russia moved to guard warehouses and 1,000 kilometers from the front is a system that isn't covering something else. Every billion spent protecting the rear is a billion that didn't go into an offensive. One strike changes nothing on the battlefield, obviously, but there are a lot of them now, and what they change isn't the map, it's the budget and the timetable. How fast that actually bites, I don't know. And I don't think anybody does. Russia has already absorbed sanctions, absorbed enormous losses, spent an insane amount of money, and it's still fighting. So when someone tell me one more warehouses and the Kremlin sits down to talk, no, I didn't believe that. It doesn't work like that. It's slower and more boring than that. As long as Moscow thinks the war costs less than it gains, the war continues. And what Ukraine is doing is pushing that cost up from every side at once. How long before it matters, nobody will tell you honestly. There is one more thing about Putin himself. What he sells, Russian, isn't victory exactly, it's a feeling that he's got a handle on this. The army is working somewhere, the attacks don't really change anything, it's all going to plan. And while the war stays far away, that holds. If holds worse when drones keep arriving in places they shouldn't reach. At the point, it isn't about our house anymore. It's about a state saying one thing while people look out the window and see another. I live in Kyiv, so I can't look at this from a distance even if I wanted to. When a few hundred drones and missiles come at us, nobody here wonder whether the war is far away. You wake up to it, you go down to the corridor or the shelter, you wait, and in morning you read where it landed and who's gone. So when our drones fly deep into Russia, I don't see a separate story, some war other direction. Russia brought it here, and Ukraine is making sure Russia stops being the one country where life just carries on. Will it work? I don't know. It's entirely possible Russia just spreads the cost across the budget and keeps going. It's possible have those warehouses rebuilt by spring and nobody remember them. But the direction makes sense to me because Russia's size stopped being only an advantage. All of it has to be covered somehow. Factories, airfields, warehouses, power plant, refineries, and now delivery network on top. You can put air defense everywhere, and they're finding that out in a very expensive way. At some point, the question stops being whether Russia can keep fighting. It can. The question becomes whether it still wants to at this price. That's the whole bet, and it's a slow one.